guys, this is another entry in the Allan's Answers podcast, and sorry I just got out of the shower, my hair is a little wet, but that's not important because today I got 5 questions lined up for us today from the amazing site Yahoo Answers, and the first one comes from Will the Dark End, and they ask, how can love be the poison as well as the antidote? And they also ask, why is it that love is blind? Do you think the saying is right? If no, why? If yes, then what makes love blind? And I gotta say that I feel like, yes, love can definitely be poison as well as the antidote, and I feel like that this probably applies because love is just such a binding factor that it'll make us do crazy things and things that we might not necessarily be willing to do. Like if we're in love with a bad person, then it can be a poison to us because we're brought down to their level and they continuously like use us or try to get us to follow down their path that maybe we're not willing to go, but because we love them we give into it, you know. So it can be a poison and detrimental to yourself as well, and especially if you love somebody that doesn't love you back. That can just, unrequited love is probably, I guess, one of the most painful things ever, because it emotionally kills you, you know, and it poisons you, I guess, in the sense that you're asking the question. And it also is the antidote because it brings meaning and, I guess, just hope in general to life and what people do in their lives, you know. If they love what they're doing and if people love them as well, they get such a sense of comfort and just great feelings of happiness inside of them, you know. And so I guess it is the antidote to things like sadness or loneliness, you know, especially if it's a person that loves you, and it all depends on what you love in addition to what loves you back, you know, and that all applies to it. But yes, love can lead you down very bad paths and be a poison to your life, as well as the antidote and cure all the sadness and everything negative in your life. And when they ask love is blind, I feel like that it's not necessarily blind, but it's not like people necessarily get a choice in who they love, you know. I feel like that situations arise, and based upon those certain predicaments, love can be coaxed along. Not necessarily coaxed along, but it can be more proactive and more likely to occur if certain requirements are met. And if people just hang out after enough time and they have similar interests and just things, chemistry blends really well together, they might not intend to fall in love together, but they might necessarily in the end, you know. I'm not really a love doctor or anything like that, you know. But I feel like that in some sense of the term, yes, love can be blind. So hopefully that answers your question. And then Jay asks, can you ever change yourself for the better? And I definitely think that, yes, you definitely can change yourself for the better. We're humans, so everybody's human here, so we all have negative attributes to ourselves, you know. There's always something that doesn't positively reflect on our character. Like me personally, I'm always late, you know, and I guess there's millions of ways that I could change myself for the better. I guess the main one would be to leave my house earlier or make plans and dedicate myself to them and create more determination in myself to reach my destinations on time, you know. And I could definitely change it. I just need the proper motivation or just the right encouragement, I guess, in order to fully accomplish it. But there are so many negative aspects that people have, like they lie, they cheat, they steal, they kill, they harm other people, you know. There's just so many things that could be reflected bad on somebody's personality that there just has to be ways which you can fix them, you know. If you drink too much, there's Alcohol's Anonymous, you know, or if you if you do drugs, there's rehab, you know, or if you lie and cheat, you can fix that. And sometimes it takes punishment and consequences for those negative actions and behaviors to fully realize it. Like if I were to be late, then maybe I wouldn't be allowed to go to my place the next time, or I don't know. There's always negative punishments. I don't know, I feel like they send a message, because if you endure something, negative punishment, then you're probably gonna your behavior, I feel like, will probably want to be changed and modified in order to avoid the similar fate in the future, you know? I don't think anybody likes being grounded, you know, or other common punishments like that, and I feel like that they can provide the motivation. But I think in order to truly change yourself for the better, you have to want to change yourself as a person, you know? Nobody can make you do anything, in a sense, you know? I feel like you always have a response in the situation and a responsibility to get things done the way you want to. And if you do truly want to change yourself, then I'm sure there are plenty of venues for that to happen. So hopefully that answered your question. And then Lola asks, what do you think affects human morality? What makes you do the right thing? And I feel like, well, besides the consequences and restraints, I feel like that things like love and emotions definitely affect human morality, you know? Aspects in which humans have stakes and risks involved and not doing what's right can definitely motivate them to do so in the future. I guess that kind of relates to consequences with punishments and things like that, but I feel like that, in a sense, just the general feeling of morals and right and wrong and ethics that you develop from an upbringing can kind of determine what you view in your perspective on certain situations, what is the right thing to do in those situations and what's the wrong thing to do. And depending on how you were raised, you may feel differently on what you should do in those given situations, and the moral dilemmas, you know, based on your ethics, it can affect those situations, clearly put you in a fork in the road of what you should do based on your moral. Like, if you see a poor woman stealing medicine at a pharmacy for her children, then what do? Do you let her, in your work there, do you let her get away and pay for it out of your money, or do you call the cops or security on her and get her, like, arrested or have a fine on her when you can clearly see that she's poor, you know? Like, what would you do there, you know? And those situations put you on the spot and make you come up with an answer, and it's all based upon your own personality and self, and I think that definitely makes us do the right thing in our opinions. And Kelly in Eternal Universal Energy asks, do we spend our whole lives stuck in patterns we cannot recognize? And I feel like that necessarily, I don't know if we recognize it. I think we do recognize it in a sense, but it's just that it's so routine that it just happens so much that either we recognize it and we're too lazy to do anything about it, or it's an effective method so we don't want to do anything about it and it just has to be done that way, or that we just don't even notice it because it's so mundane that it just happens naturally. So I feel like that in a way we do have patterns that we can't recognize, but we're not necessarily stuck to it, because I feel like that if you can recognize everything that you're doing. Sometimes, you know, I drive back to my house and I'm on autopilot when I have to drop somebody else off in my car, you know, but I feel like that's not necessarily something that's not possible of changing, you know. You can change that event to once you recognize that you're in a pattern, and then you can change your behavior based upon that. So hopefully that answers your question. And then Lola also asks, would you say intelligence lies in the question or in the answer? And I would say that intelligence lies in both, because when you're trying to ask a question, you need to word it correctly in order to get the correct response that you're looking for. You know, like when you're interviewing something, you have to word the question correctly in order to instigate a response that is something for what you're looking for, you know? So that intelligence, you need to create a situation for the optimal response, you know? So that's part of the question, but the answer in a sense is you need to have intelligence based on prior knowledge and other parts of your being in order to be smart enough to answer it. So for instance, would the person who creates a puzzle be smarter than the person who solves it? And I say that you need to, in a sense, it kind of has to be at an equilibrium, you know, to be effective. But I feel like that the person who creates a puzzle doesn't necessarily have to be smarter than the one who does it, the one who solves it, because it's a puzzle and it's probably going to be solved in a sense, you know. But there's always just going to be, when time's devoted to a certain situation, there's going to be ways that you can solve it. So like for the person who created the Rubik's Cube, he was probably smarter than a lot of people who tried to attempt it, but eventually over time people came up with algorithms in order to solve it. So I guess it depends, and it's in both situations, I guess. And hopefully that answers your question, and hopefully that answers all your questions, guys, and hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next time.